Welcome, Benicia, March for Our Lives. Give yourselves a round of applause for being here today and showing up. Nationwide, we have 400 marches for March for Our Lives, so we are joined by so many people across the country. This mobilized because of what happened in Texas, but since then, 72 mass shootings have happened.
First, I want to say thank you, Allie, Becca, and Jackie. You guys are awesome. They put this together in less than 2 weeks. They're moms, they're working moms with kids in schools, and they did an amazing job. Terry Scott is a 10-year Benicia resident and seasoned businessman, futurist, and philanthropist, and community leader. He has helped found and organize several humanitarian-focused groups in Benicia that works to make Benicia a better place for all. He's the chair of the Arts and Culture Commission and former executive director of the Benicia Community Foundation. Terry likes to say that he went from college hippie to distinguished alumni, delivering the commencement address at his alma mater, Kent State University, in only 40 years.
How high are we, willing to set the price to defend an amendment that has been outpaced by technology? How is being shot at school, malls, churches, grocery stores an expression of freedom? Is it time to agree that the original intent of an antiquated amendment has been co-opted? We accept reasonable limitations. We accept reasonable limitations on other rights. Why is this such a struggle with the right to bear arms? I don't want to take anyone's guns away. I just want to stop the senseless slaughter. I don't want to fear for my granddaughter going to school every day. Your children, your grandchildren going to school every day. I want our government to stop the paralysis and pass sensible gun regulation. Is it so difficult to raise the age to purchase a gun from 18 to 21? Nope. Does that change the Constitution? Nope. Is it difficult to do a background check and create red flag laws so our police are empowered to help us? Nope. Does that change the Constitution? Nope. Do we recognize that gun violence is a public health crisis? So we need to increase mental health funding. Does that change the Constitution? I'm sure the many speakers that are going to follow me today will demand that we need congressional bipartisan support to address the epidemic of gun violence sweeping our country. Marches like this, assemblies like this, people like you are recognizing that public outrage is critical to sending our message to the government. That we, the people, want reasonable gun regulation. I do not want to fear dropping my 5-year-old granddaughter off at school and wonder, are we going to get a call or are we going to watch something on TV and have to rush down to her school? I don't believe we do. And I believe that if we look at sensible gun regulation, we can start to stop the slaughter. So, thank you all.
Next we have Sherry Zeta, a retired school librarian, current president and trustee of the Benicia Unified School Governing Board. Sherry was the person who spearheaded the original March for Our Lives back in 2018. Thank you, Sherry.
I heard about the March for Our Lives event that was going to be international. If you remember back in 2018, it was all over the world that these marches were held. So I was with my husband, Alan, at lunch one day, crying, and I said, you know what, I can't just sit by and do nothing. I have to do something. I had to feel like I was involved in some way. So I went ahead and I put a note out on Facebook, just trying to see if there was going to be any interest in any involvement in doing a march in Benicia. Little did I know that our community is full of wonderful people that believed the same way I believed and were ready to step up and say something and be a part of something. We got our students involved. We got our teachers involved. We got our local folks in Benicia involved. Not only that, we were the only one in Solano County that put together such a march. We had over 1,500 people back then. It was really incredible to see everybody working towards the same thing, really, gun control and stopping gun violence. The students, the families, and the elected officials back then, as they will now, they spoke from their heart. It's like we didn't know, like, what do we say? What do we do? But they spoke from their heart, and you could actually feel, you could palpitate the feeling that people were, of what people were saying. I never was involved in politics before this, ever. This is not who I am. It was totally out of my wheelhouse. More than 170 school shootings have happened since Parkland, Florida. 170. Over 950 school shootings happened since Sandy Hook in 2012. Just think about that for just a second. Let that sink in. That is a lot of shootings. That's not even how many students, that's how many shootings. So you gotta realize that it's an epidemic in our country. Guns are the leading cause of death in American children and teens. It's actually surpassing automobile accidents. What's wrong with that? A lot is wrong with that. Well, the first thing I did when I got into office is I made sure that there was a resolution passed in our school board that would not allow our teachers to be armed, ever. It is not the place for our teachers to be armed. They're there to teach our students, but they are not there to have a weapon to protect our students in that kind of way. I don't ever want to see that happen. I worry daily about our students and the safety of our staff and students and even our community at large. You know, this is a United States problem. This is not a Benicia problem or a California problem. This is a whole of the United States problem. Yes, we have, mental health issues. We have things that can contribute to these mass shootings. But the other countries of our world also have mental health issues. They also, like, we play video games. People could say it has to do with the video games that we play with that our kids play. It has nothing to do with that. Those countries all have the same thing available to them. So what's wrong with us? Something is definitely wrong with us. Kids should not fear school. Kids should feel that school is a safe haven for them. No child should feel leaving their parent and walking into class should they even have to worry about the what ifs. And I know a lot of our students are thinking like that right now because it's very hard to hide that when it's so out there for everybody to see. We as a community, we should not fear leaving our homes to go to the grocery store. And, I'm referring to Buffalo, New York. We shouldn't be afraid to go to the movie theater or to a fair or to anything. But it's always in the back of our minds, at least in mine it is. We need to step up. We need to do something. Because words are just words. So please get your voices heard. Please step up. And thank you. Thank you so much.
My name is Bella Cannon, and I am the newly elected sophomore class president at Benicia High School. I am here speaking to you today because I am 15 and I am tired. I am tired of being scared to go to school every day. I am tired of feeling like my life doesn't matter when I get there. I am tired of being worried about my 10-year-old sister and 13-year-old brother when we all leave the house every morning. We are each at a different school right now, so we don't see each other until the end of the day. I am tired of worrying if we are all going to make it home. I am tired of learning how to protect myself and others from an armed gunman. I am tired of constantly wondering who is a good guy and who is a bad guy. I am tired of seeing so many shootings that my young mind has already become desensitized to it. I am tired of the media and our elected officials negating our lives by saying it could have been worse or minimizing our tragedies. I am tired of the media and our elected officials making excuses for someone so willing to take a child's life. And I am extremely tired of the adults who are supposed to be protecting us caring more about their hobbies than they care about our lives. The shooting at Sandy Hook happened when I was in first grade. I have never known a school experience where I did not have to continuously worry about not surviving the day. As a fairly normal 15-year-old, I should be worrying about if I have any classes with my friends, who I'm going to a dance with, if I studied enough for my finals, if I remembered to bring my homework, and if I will complete my driver's ed before I turn 16. What I should not have to worry about is if the last time I see my brother and sister alive is at the breakfast table before school. At Robb Elementary in Texas, the children murdered were 4th graders, 10-year-olds. That is the same age as my baby sister. I can't stop thinking about how those families and those older siblings must be feeling. I can't stop thinking about their devastation. As a 15-year-old, a child, I can't change any laws. I can't even vote. All that I can do is stand in front of you all today as a representative of my class and as a representative of students across the nation and ask you to please do something to protect me, protect us. We are the future. Please help us make it to that future. Thank you.
Wow. Our next high school student, Juhi Yadav, is an incoming freshman at UC Berkeley studying bioengineering. During high school, she participated in speech and debate, which is where she learned about gun control and became involved in student activism. As a high school senior, while earning her place as valedictorian of the class of 2022, she debated with the nationally ranked Diablo Valley College forensics team, winning several solo and team awards and directly impacting the team's state and national championship wins. Juhi also works on education campaigns to combat intimate partner violence in the Benicia community. This one.
Americans need guns. Now, if you ask why, don't expect a clear answer. We need guns because we have a right to them. Because the Founding Fathers said so. Louder? Up here? Can you guys hear me better? Alright. Because if you want a gun, the government says that you get to have it, virtually unconditionally. You have a right. But is it right that you have it? In response to tragic and despicable instances of violence like that in Texas just weeks ago, lobbyists and lawmakers love to enter a fantasy world where guns are used to protect innocent families from armed gunmen. At every step of the way, they ask the question, but what if just one of the teachers had been armed? How would the story have changed? The answer is painfully clear. It wouldn't. In 2013, Chris Kyle was murdered. Chris Kyle was a decorated Navy SEAL, famous for being one of the most skilled snipers to fight in the Iraq War. In 2013, he and a friend took a fellow veteran into a shooting range to help him treat his PTSD. Text messages between the two reveal that both of them knew that the other man was dangerous and felt that he was likely to shoot them. Chris Kyle was armed at the time of his death. He was one of the most skilled gunmen in the country. He was aware that a threat was imminent. None of that was enough to save his life. So what chance could an armed teacher possibly have against an unexpected, unidentified threat? In the real world, we understand that that teacher's odds are essentially zero. But for the manufacturers and the believers of this fantasy, this is the perfect solution regardless. It's one where guns control themselves. They self-regulate. The idea of an armed hero swooping in to save the day is intuitive. It's easy. It's a classic American story, just enough to be able to sweep the real-world consequences of gun violence under the rug. I want the thousands of lobbyists and lawmakers who spread this narrative to go to school on lockdown drill day. I want them to witness 7-year-olds discussing who can fit in the trash can when the gunman comes, how many can fit in the cabinet. I want them to witness 13-year-olds being told not to text their parents that they love them if an active shooter is on campus, so that phone lines are kept clear for emergency services. I want them to witness 16-year-olds learning to run, and if that doesn't work, then hide, and if that doesn't work, then fight, and if that doesn't work, then die. These are the real stories of gun violence in our community. A threat that is so insidious that the constant fear of violence takes life in our schools every day, whether an actual gunman is present or not. I went to my first March for Our Lives after Parkland when I was 13. Now, 4 years later, we're back to the same streets, protesting the same act of violence that our government has left unchecked to devastate another school and another community. As students, we are heartbroken that this tragedy could go unprevented anywhere, but we also live with the constant awareness that we in Benicia could be next. At the end of the day, the essential message from lawmakers to students is this: the right to own a gun matters more than your right to live. Today, we are demanding more from our government. It's not enough to placate gun lobbies by continuing to militarize schools. Our schools are armed enough. We need to stop those who want mass murder students from having the tools to do so in the first place. You all voted for these officials because we thought that they would make change in our communities. How many more children must die before they are willing to do so? It's time for our elected officials to do their job and protect the students of America. And our right to live, grow, and learn in environments free of the threat of gun violence. Thank you.
Our final student is Michael Delgado, a junior attending Benicia High School. After 1 year on the competitive debate circuit, he is a nationally ranked debater. He has worked closely with local governments, including Congressman Mike Thompson, to improve our local community.
Three weeks ago, when we heard the news that 19 children were murdered in a public school, none of us were surprised. These children are the pure among us, the innocent among us, and the most vulnerable among us. They are our future, and time again, we watch and stand idly by while they are taken from us. A society which allows its future to be slaughtered is a sick society, a society which is losing its humanity. Those we have elected to represent us bicker and scream, and those we have trusted to protect us stand and watch. Most damaging of all is the growing apathy of it all. Our elected leaders ignore our pleas for change. A few shriek and yell about reform and change while saying their prayers out loud and nothing. We organize and we march and we beg, and nothing. There is a hopelessness to the repetition. In preparation for this speech, I revisited the march held 4 years ago after the massacre at Stoneman Douglas High. There was talk of reform, and of change, and of never again. 4 years later, and I stand where they stood. This will not be the last time we see those headlines. The last time that 911 call is made. The last time a mother will cry outside a school wondering if her child is alive. Most importantly, though, this is not the last time we march. Our society and our community are reflections of ourselves. We march not only as a civic duty, but as a duty to each other. We march because we're human, because when our children are murdered, we act. Our decaying society and our broken communities are healed by our actions. When we march, think not of the politicians in Washington, nor the lobbyists in Houston, but of each other. Change starts from within, and it starts right here. Do not become a victim of despair. Remember why you march, remember why you fight. Reflect upon your soul and find a heart. Thank you.
Our final speaker before we march is our Benicia Poet Laureate, Mary Susan Gaye. She's a poet, a theologian, a human rights advocate, and a musician. As she ages, she finds it increasingly difficult and immaterial to differentiate among those identities. She edits the newspaper column, Going the Distance, bringing together writings that offer strength, hope, and solidarity in this time of viral pandemic, systemic racism, economic hardship, climate crisis, and threats to democracy. Mary?
One of the things I hope not to have to write into the job description for future Poets Laureate of Benicia is speaking at March for Our Lives rallies. The final poem, written this morning, is a plea to legislators. Deliver us from slaughter, unprovoked. Deliver us from nightmares, unending. Deliver us from survivors' guilt, haunting. Deliver us from grieving beyond consolation for those who have been utterly, irrevocably annihilated. At school, at work, at worship, at birthday parties, at the grocery store. The Constitution will not crumble if we do not secure the blessings of the AR-15 to everyone. Lest we trample on the freedom of those desiring to arm themselves against marauding bears and sinister chipmunks. We civilians can live without semi-automatic rifles capable of shredding the mortal, sacred bodies of children and adults as fast as inhumanly possible. We can live without them. I mean, really, live, as in stay alive. Do something. Do something. Do something.
We are going to march today. Again, your safety is number one.
we're here today to protest gun violence all around the country, and we just want to, get the word out there and try to be heard about what we think should be done within our country, and we just really want it's happening this often. Somebody needs to pay attention, and something needs to be done because it's just ridiculous.
Well, why I'm here today is because I guess gun violence has gone on too long in this country. Like, the Second Amendment was not made for assault rifles, and it's not just, I guess, school shootings. It's about everyday gun violence. Like, I'm not sure if this number is correct, but around 60% of gun deaths are suicides. And so I think it's important to highlight all types of gun violence and, take steps in making legislation that protects our people, because I think the right to life is more important than the right to bear arms.
The march for our children's lives, the march for our society's lives. So make sure that you're registered to vote, and make sure that you vote for the candidates who care about their community, and to make sure, because the role of government is to ensure everybody's safety.
Volunteer to help pass out signs for the gun violence. Not only that, but to be a part of today. I feel like gun violence is something that we really need to talk about. Not necessarily on the school level, but any type of gun violence. I feel like assault rifles shouldn't be just easily given out to people. Last year we did have a school shooting threat at our school, and it really scared a lot of people. We didn't know what was going on. It scared me. All we heard it was just a lockdown, and then text started getting around saying there's a gun on campus, and it scared a lot of people. And it's just a feeling that we show up at school and we don't know if we're going to be safe or not. I don't like it.
We can have a little tighter, we can laugh a little more, laugh a little harder, we can stand up and roll. If we all come together, we'll be alright. Stand up for one another, and we'll never give up the fight.
Easily ignored by those who will not listen. There are so many things you can do to become involved.
Reach out to your congressman. Mail, call, and tweet. The smallest of words can make the biggest difference.
Be the voice for those who don't have one.